The dust on Terminus 7 had not been disturbed in 3,000 years. Deho stood at the edge of the excavation site, watching his team work under the pale light of twin suns. The planet was dead. No water, no air worth breathing. Nothing but rocks and sand stretching to every horizon. But beneath the surface they had found something impossible. Deho was a Velcrin, tall and thin with blue skin that shimmered in the heat. His people were known across the galaxy as the best archaeologists, the best keepers of history. He had spent 40 years digging through dead worlds, looking for answers about the past. But he had never found anything like this. The vault door stood 30 feet tall, made of metal that their scanners could not identify. Strange symbols covered every inch of it. Yunbi, his senior scientist, had been working for weeks to translate them. She was older than Deho, her skin darker blue, her movements slow and careful. She did not smile much these days. "The warnings are clear," Yunbi said, looking up from her data tablet. 17 different languages, all saying the same thing. "Do not open. Human containment facility. Extreme danger." Hajun laughed from where he crouched near the door's base. He was young, barely past his 20th cycle, with bright green eyes that were always curious. "Humans are myths, Yunbi. Stories to scare children. They never existed." "Maybe," Yunbi replied quietly. "Or maybe we forgot the truth and kept only the fear." Deho had heard the stories as a child. Humans were monsters from the old times. Creatures that could not die, that felt no pain, that destroyed everything they touched. The legends said they came from a world so terrible that it made them into demons. They said humans fought a great war against the galaxy and lost, destroyed completely, wiped from existence. But Deho was a scientist. "He did not believe in demons, Jiwoo," he called out. "Status?" The military escort commander approached, her armored suit making soft whirring sounds with each step. Jiwoo was all business, no nonsense, her hand never far from her weapon. "Perimeter is secure. No threats detected, but I do not like this place, Deho. My sensors keep giving me warnings." "What kind of warnings?" "Threat level warnings. The vault reads as dangerous. Very dangerous." "But it is just a door," Deho nodded. Technology from 3,000 years ago was strange. It probably did not work correctly anymore. "Hajun, how is the door mechanism?" The young technician grinned. "I think I have it figured out. There is a power source inside, still active after all this time. Whatever is in there, they wanted it to last forever." "Can you open it?" "I can try." Yunbi grabbed Deho's arm. Her grip was strong, urgent. "We should not do this. The warnings exist for a reason. Every civilization that left these messages, every species that touched this place, they all agreed on one thing. Keep it closed. We are scientists," Deho said gently. "We cannot ignore a discovery like this. Think of what we might learn. I am thinking of what we might release." But Deho had already made his decision. He nodded to Hajun. "Open it." The young Velcrin attached several devices to the door's control panel. His fingers moved quickly over the holographic interface, entering codes and bypassing ancient security systems. Deho watched the door carefully. Part of him wondered if Yunbi was right. Part of him wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. The door shuddered. A deep sound rumbled through the ground, making everyone step back. Lights flickered along the door's edges, red at first, then yellow, then green. With a hiss of air that had been trapped for millennia, the vault began to open. Cold mist poured out from the darkness inside. Jiwoo raised her weapon, her armor's lights cutting through the fog. "Movement detected," she said sharply. "Multiple life signs. They are alive. Whatever is in there is alive." Deho's hearts began to beat faster. The Velcrin had 2 hearts, and right now both of them were racing. Impossible. Nothing could survive 3,000 years. The readings do not lie. They moved forward slowly, carefully. The inside of the vault was massive, a chamber easily 100 feet wide. And filling the chamber were pods. Hundreds of them. Most were dark and empty, their glass fronts shattered from the inside, their occupants long gone. But 3 pods still glowed with soft blue light. Hajun approached the first pod, wiping frost from the glass. He froze. "Deho, you need to see this." Inside the pod was a creature unlike anything in the known galaxy. It stood upright like a Velcrin, but was shorter, thicker. Its skin was not blue or green or any proper color, but a strange pale brown. It had hair on its head, dark and wild. Its face was smooth, with 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. It looked almost normal. Almost. But Deho's scanner was screaming warnings at him. Bone density 3 times normal, he read aloud, his voice shaking. Muscle fiber density impossible. Regenerative capabilities beyond measurement. This cannot be real. What is it? Jiwoo demanded. Yunbi answered, her voice barely a whisper. A human. We found a human. Before anyone could react, Ha-Jun stumbled backward into the second pod's control panel. His elbow hit a button. Lights blazed to life throughout the vault. A warning siren began to wail. The 3 active pods started to glow brighter, their internal systems waking up after 3,000 years of sleep. What did you do? Jiwoo shouted. I did not mean to. The pods opened. Steam erupted into the air as ancient mechanisms released their seals. The creatures inside began to move. Daeho watched in horror and fascination as the first one opened its eyes. They were brown, those eyes, deep and dark and impossibly aware. The human took a breath. Then another. It sat up slowly, ice cracking off its skin. It was male, Daeho thought, though he was not sure how he knew. The human wore strange clothing, gray and fitted with symbols on the chest that meant nothing to him. The second pod opened. A female, smaller than the first but moving with the same careful precision. She had longer hair, black as space, and eyes that immediately scanned the room, cataloging threats. The third pod released another male, broad-shouldered and scarred. His face looked harder than the others, like he had seen terrible things. For a long moment, nobody moved. 4 Velkrins stared at 3 humans. 3 humans stared back. Then the first male spoke. His voice was rough, unused, but he spoke in galactic common. The words were broken, the accent strange but understandable. Where are we? Daeho found his voice somehow. Terminus 7, a dead planet. You were in stasis. You have been asleep for 3,000 years. The human's face did not change. He looked at the other 2 humans. They exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Then the first male looked back at Daeho and asked a question that made Daeho's blood run cold. 3,000 years. Then the war is over. The human's lips moved into something that might have been a smile but looked more like a predator baring its teeth. Who won? Jiwoo's weapon was up instantly. Alarms blared as her suit's threat assessment went to maximum. Red lights flooded the chamber. Behind Daeho, Yunbi was backing toward the exit, pulling Ha-Jun with her. But Daeho could not move. He stared at the human, at Young Sik. Somehow he knew that was the creature's name, could feel it, and understood with terrible clarity that the myths had not lied. Humans were real, and if the rest of the stories were true, then the galaxy was about to change forever. The human stood up from the pod. His movements were smooth, controlled. Every muscle worked in perfect coordination. He should have been weak after 3,000 years of frozen sleep. He should have been barely able to walk. Instead, he looked ready for war. The news spread across the galaxy in hours. Living humans had been found. The Council of 12 convened immediately, calling representatives from every corner of known space. Panic spread like fire through dry grass. Kyungmin stood before the council chambers looking out at the stars. He was High Counselor, leader of the coalition that kept peace among the 12 species. He was old now, his scales turning from bright silver to dull gray, but his mind was still sharp. And right now his mind was racing with terrible possibilities. They want us to kill them, said Hyojin, standing beside him. She was chief of security, responsible for protecting the entire coalition. Her people were warriors, built strong and fast, but even she looked worried. Half the council is demanding immediate execution. They say it is too dangerous to let humans live. Kyungmin sighed. And the other half? They want to study them first. Then kill them. Nobody wants to talk to them? Would you talk to a bomb before it exploded? Kyungmin turned away from the window. We must be better than our fear. Send me all the historical data we have on humans. Everything. Meanwhile, on Terminus 7, the 3 humans were being held in a secure facility. It was not a prison exactly. The rooms were comfortable. They had food, water, entertainment. But the doors were locked and guards stood watch at every entrance. Daeho visited them every day. He wanted to understand. The archaeologist in him needed to know the truth. Young Sik was the first human, the leader. He was military. That much was clear from the way he moved, the way he assessed every room he entered. His eyes were always watching, always calculating. But when he spoke, his voice was calm and patient. You are afraid of us, Young Sik said during one of Daeho's visits. I can see it in your body language. The way you stand near the door. The way your hand shakes when you bring us food. Daeho wanted to deny it but could not. The legends say humans are monsters. What do the legends say exactly? That you cannot die. That you feel no pain. That you destroyed worlds for fun. Young-sik laughed, and the sound was strange. It was warm, almost friendly. We can die, trust me. We die very easily, and we feel pain just fine. Too much sometimes. Then why do the legends exist? Because we do not stop when other species would. That is the difference. In another room, Bora was talking to Ha-jun. The young technician visited her often, curious despite his fear. Bora was an engineer and she loved to teach. Her hands were always moving, always explaining. Your people gave up on fusion power, she said, pointing to Ha-jun's tablet. Why? Too dangerous. The reactions were unstable. We lost 3 research stations. So you stopped trying? Yes, it was the logical choice, Bora smiled. Humans would have lost 30 stations. Maybe 300. But we would have kept trying until we figured it out. That is what makes us different. Not strength. Not intelligence. Just stubbornness. In the third room, Tae-yang sat quietly. He was the medic trained to save lives. He spent his time reading medical texts, learning about the species that now filled the galaxy. He asked guards about their families. He learned their names. Slowly, they stopped seeing him as a threat and started seeing him as a person. Across the galaxy, Jae-won was discovering horrifying truths in his laboratory. He was the Coalition's best biologist, and he had been given tissue samples from the humans. What he found defied everything he knew about life. They heal in hours what would take us weeks, he reported to the council. Their bones are 3 times denser than ours. Their muscles are packed with redundant systems. They have a chemical in their bodies called adrenaline that makes them stronger and faster when threatened. They are designed for survival. Subin, the intelligence officer, was digging through historical archives. Most of the records from 3,000 years ago were lost or corrupted, but she found fragments, pieces of the truth. The war did happen, she told Kyung-min in a private meeting, but humans were not the aggressors. They were allies. They fought beside the Coalition's ancestors against an external threat. Then why were they imprisoned? Because they were winning too well. They made us look weak. They made everyone look weak. Humans would charge into battles that we called suicide missions and come back alive. They would fight for days without rest. They would drag wounded soldiers through fire to save them. They made the rest of the galaxy feel inadequate. Kyung-min closed his eyes. So we locked them away. The records suggest it was more complex, but yes. Essentially, we removed them because they made us uncomfortable. Back on Terminus 7, a new threat was emerging. Sang-wook led a group called the Purifiers. They believed the galaxy must remain pure, free from the chaos of human influence. They had members in every species, every world, and they were planning something terrible. The council is weak, Sang-wook told his followers in a secret meeting. They will study the humans. They will talk to them. They will let the monsters walk free. We cannot allow this. We must act. Dong-hyun stood among the Purifiers, listening. He was young, idealistic. He believed in protecting the galaxy. But as he listened to Sang-wook's hatred, something felt wrong. He pushed the doubt aside. The Purifiers knew best. They had to. The attack came at midnight. The Purifiers had inside help, someone who gave them access codes. They breached the facility's defenses easily. Alarms blared, but it was too late. Poison gas flooded the human containment area. It was a nerve agent designed to kill instantly. Through the security cameras, Sang-wook watched and smiled. The humans would die and the galaxy would be safe. But in the containment area, something impossible was happening. Young-sik smelled the gas first. Hold your breath, he commanded. Both of you now, they obeyed instantly. Bora sealed the ventilation in their room using her engineering knowledge. Tae-yang grabbed medical supplies. They moved to the center room where the gas was thickest. Daeho was still in the facility. He had been reviewing documents when the attack started. Now he was trapped, the gas burning his lungs. He fell to his knees, unable to breathe, vision going dark. This was death, then strong hands grabbed him. Young-sik lifted him easily, carrying him toward a clear area. But there was no clear area. Gas was everywhere. The human did not breathe, did not gasp, did not panic. Through the intercom, Young-sik's voice was steady. Daeho, listen to me. You are about to see why your ancestors were afraid. Do not worry. We are on your side. Young Sik had been holding his breath for 4 minutes already. His lungs screamed for air, but he ignored them. He carried Deho to a corner and set him down gently. Then he turned to the ventilation system. The reinforced door that blocked the vent shaft was made of titanium alloy. It required industrial cutting equipment to open. Young Sik examined it for 3 seconds. Then he gripped the edges and pulled, his muscles strained. Tendons stood out on his neck. A low growl came from his throat. The door began to bend. Metal shrieked in protest. And then, impossibly, it tore free. 6 minutes without breathing. Young Sik reached into the vent and ripped out the gas canisters with his bare hands. He crushed them, venting the remaining gas into the shaft and away from the facility. Bora was already reprogramming the air filtration to clean the remaining toxins. Tae-yang was giving Daeho emergency treatment, keeping him alive. 7 minutes. 8 minutes, finally the air cleared. Young Sik took a breath. Just one, deep and steady. Then he knelt beside Daeho. "You will be okay," he said gently. "Breathe slowly. The worst is over." Security forces arrived to find the purifiers fleeing. The attack had failed. In the containment area, they found 3 humans standing calm and unharmed, and they found Daeho alive, saved by the very creatures everyone called monsters. Jiwoo entered the room carefully, weapon ready. She looked at the torn metal door, at the destroyed canisters, at Young Sik's bloody hands where sharp edges had cut him. The wounds were already closing, healing before her eyes. "You could have escaped," she said quietly. "You could have run when the gas started. Nobody would have blamed you." Young Sik shook his head. "You are not our enemies." "Why would we run?" "Because we imprisoned you. You were afraid. Fear makes people do foolish things. We understand fear." He looked down at Daeho, who was breathing easier now. "We also understand loyalty. Daeho has treated us with respect. We do not abandon people who show us kindness." Word of what happened spread quickly. The council watched the security footage over and over. They saw human strength, human endurance, human power. But they also saw human mercy. Young Sik could have killed everyone in the facility. Instead, he saved them. Kyungmin made his decision. "We will not kill them. We will not imprison them further. We will talk to them. We will learn from them. And perhaps if we are very lucky, they will forgive us." But even as he spoke, new warnings arrived. Something was coming. Something worse than purifiers or poison gas. The Vrask swarm had been detected at the edge of Coalition space, and they were heading this way. The discovery of more human facilities changed everything. Within weeks, search teams found 7 more vaults scattered across dead planets. Each one contained sleeping humans frozen in time, waiting for a wake-up call that never came. Until now. Minji was among the first to wake from the second facility. She was a historian, one of the few who had dedicated her life to preserving human knowledge before the long sleep. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with gray streaks in her dark hair. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "We knew this might happen," she told the gathered humans in their first meeting. Young Sik, Bora, and Tae-yang were there. So were Chang-min, a combat specialist who woke up ready to fight, and 15 others from various facilities. "We knew someday the galaxy might need us again. That is why we accepted the sleep." "Accepted?" Daeho asked. He attended the meeting as an observer, still recovering from the poison gas attack. "You chose to be imprisoned?" Minji smiled sadly. "Is that what your history says? That you imprisoned us?" "Yes." "Then your history is incomplete." She pulled up a holographic display showing images from 3,000 years ago. "Humans did not lose the war, we won. We won so decisively that it scared everyone. Not because we were violent, but because we refused to quit." The images showed battles, but not the kind Daeho expected. He saw humans throwing themselves between civilians and weapons fire. He saw humans holding broken bridges together with their own bodies while others escaped. He saw humans fighting for days without sleep, protecting species that were not their own. "Your ancestors asked us to stop," Minji continued. "They said we were disrupting the natural order, that we made other species feel useless, that we needed to step back and let the galaxy grow on its own." She looked around at her fellow humans. "So we did. We built the vaults, we went to sleep, and we trusted that we would be awakened only if we were truly needed." 3,000 years, Bora whispered. "They left us asleep for 3,000 years. They forgot about us," Young Sik said. "We became myths." "Maybe that was for the best," Tae-yang added quietly. "If they remembered us as we were, They might have destroyed us while we slept. Nari, a coalition investigator, had been listening carefully. She worked with Subin, gathering information. I need to ask a difficult question. What was Earth like? Your homeworld? The humans exchanged glances. Changmin answered, his voice rough. Hell, Deho frowned. I do not understand. Earth was a death world, Changmin explained. Everything there wanted to kill us. The weather could freeze you solid or burn you alive. The animals hunted us. The plants poisoned us. The diseases fought each other inside our bodies just to see which could kill us first. Then how did you survive? We adapted. We learned. We refused to die. Changmin stood up, pacing. You want to know why humans are strong? Because weakness meant death. You want to know why we heal fast? Because injuries happened every day. You want to know why we never give up? He looked directly at Deho. Because giving up was not an option. Ever. Jae-won, the biologist, had been studying human evolution. What he found fascinated and terrified him. Your species developed persistence hunting, he said at another meeting. You would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Your bodies are designed for endurance, not speed. We are not the fastest, Young-sik agreed. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. But we are the most stubborn. While the humans adjusted to their new reality, the galaxy faced a growing threat. The Vrask swarm was not just approaching. They were accelerating. Their scout ships had already destroyed a coalition outpost, killing everyone in minutes. Kyungmin called an emergency session. The council chamber was filled with frightened representatives. Some wanted to evacuate, some wanted to surrender. None had any real solutions. Then Young-sik requested permission to speak. The chamber went silent when he entered. He wore simple clothing, nothing military, nothing threatening. But his presence filled the room. Every eye turned to him. We know what the Vrask are, he said simply. We fought them before. Shock rippled through the council. Kyungmin leaned forward. Explain. Minji stepped up beside Young-sik, projecting data. The Vrask attacked human space 8,000 years ago. They consume everything. They think as one mind. They do not negotiate, do not surrender, do not show mercy. How did you stop them? We did not stop them, Young-sik said. We drove them away. We made them afraid. We showed them that humans are more expensive to kill than we are worth. But you were primitive then, Hyojin protested. You had no space travel. No advanced weapons, Young-sik smiled grimly. We had determination. And nuclear weapons. Lots of nuclear weapons. The council erupted in arguments. Someone shouted that humans were insane. Someone else called them saviors. Kyungmin hammered for order. What are you proposing? He asked Young-sik. Let us fight. That is what we do. We cannot ask you to die for us. You are not asking. We are volunteering. Sang-wook stood up in the chamber. Despite his failed attack on the humans, he still held political power. This is exactly what I warned about. The humans want to fight because that is all they know. Violence, destruction. If we let them defend us, we will become dependent on them. We will never grow. Young-sik turned to face him. You tried to kill us with poison gas. We saved the archaeologist who was trapped with us. We are not your enemies, you are monsters. Yes, Young-sik said quietly, and the chamber went silent. We are. Earth made us into monsters because anything less would have died. But we choose what kind of monsters to be. We choose to protect instead of destroy. We choose to save instead of kill. What do you choose? The vote was close. Half the council voted to keep humans locked away, to face the Vrask with coalition forces alone. But the other half, led by Kyungmin, voted to give humans a chance. You will fight alongside coalition forces, Kyungmin declared. Not as weapons. As partners. As allies, preparations began immediately. Humans were given access to coalition military equipment, but they immediately started modifying it. Bora worked with engineers, creating designs that made coalition scientists shake their heads in disbelief. This weapon will explode, one engineer protested. Only if you use it wrong, Bora replied cheerfully. But if you use it right, it will punch through Vrask armor like paper. The safety margins are too thin. That is the point. Safe weapons do not win wars. Changmin trained coalition soldiers in human combat tactics. Most of them could not keep up. Humans trained for 12 hours straight without stopping. They sparred until they bled, then kept fighting. They pushed their bodies past any reasonable limit. You will kill yourselves, Jiwoo said. watching Changmin spar with 3 opponents at once. No, Changmin replied, dodging a strike and countering smoothly. We will get stronger. That is what happens when you push past limits. You find new ones. Taeyang established medical protocols that shocked coalition doctors. You want me to inject poison into patients? One asked. It is called chemotherapy. It kills the disease before it kills the patient. Trust the process. Donghyun watched all of this from the shadows. He was supposed to report to Sang-wook, to find weaknesses the purifiers could exploit. But the longer he watched, the more his doubts grew. He saw humans training coalition soldiers, not to make them weak but to make them stronger. He saw humans sharing technology, not hoarding it. He saw humans laughing with aliens, making friends across species barriers. Were these the monsters he was supposed to destroy? The Vrask arrived sooner than expected. Their scouts hit a mining colony on the outer rim, killing 3,000 workers in the first attack. Coalition ships responded but were outmatched. Vrask vessels moved like living things, adapting to every tactic, learning from every encounter. The coalition fleet began to retreat. They had no choice. The Vrask were too strong, too numerous, too coordinated. Then a new signal broadcast across all channels. Coalition Command, this is Changmin. Human forces requesting permission to engage. Negative. Fall back, all ships retreat. Respectfully, Command, you have never seen humans fight for something they love. Let us show you. A dozen small ships broke formation and accelerated toward the Vrask. They were modified coalition fighters, barely held together, equipped with weapons that terrified their own engineers. And piloting them were humans who did not know how to quit. Changmin led the charge. Behind him flew So-young, a pilot who had woken up hungry for action. Beside them flew humans whose names would become legend. The Vrask swarm analyzed the new targets. Small ships, weak weapons, illogical trajectories. They calculated a 99% chance of easy victory. They had never fought humans before. So-young's ship took a hit that destroyed her shields. Instead of retreating, she accelerated. Her ship screamed toward a Vrask cruiser, engines redlining, warnings blaring. At the last second, she fired all weapons at point-blank range and rolled aside. The Vrask ship exploded. Did she just use herself as bait? A coalition officer asked in shock. No, Changmin replied calmly. She used herself as a weapon. There is a difference. One by one, the human ships pressed forward. They did not retreat when damaged. They fought harder. They did not surrender when surrounded. They found ways to win. They did not follow standard tactics. They made up new ones every second. The Vrask had fought 1,000,000 battles. The first real battle came 3 days later. The Vrask had gathered their forces, preparing for a full assault on coalition space. Intelligence reports said they would hit the industrial world of Kalin 5, home to 4 billion civilians. If it fell, the entire sector would collapse. So-young stood in the briefing room with 40 other human pilots. Around them were coalition officers who still looked at them with a mixture of awe and fear. Admiral Hee-won, a veteran of countless battles, stood at the front. She was old, scarred, missing an eye from a war decades past, but she was steady. The Vrask will come with everything they have, Hee-won said. 300 ships minimum. We have 90. Bad odds, So-young said with a grin. I like it, Hee-won almost smiled. The plan is simple. We hold them at the outer defense line while civilians evacuate. When evacuation is complete, we retreat. And if we cannot hold them, a coalition captain asked, then we die buying time. The humans in the room did not flinch. They nodded as if this was perfectly reasonable. Young Sik, who had been promoted to tactical advisor, stepped forward. We can do better than hold them, he said. We can hurt them. How? By doing what they do not expect. The Vrask think like a single mind. They calculate odds. They plan perfectly. They do not improvise. Young Sik pulled up a tactical display. So we do not let them plan. We do not give them time to calculate. We hit them from every direction at once and never stop moving. One coalition officer shook his head. That is chaos. We will lose coordination. No, So-young said. You will lose coordination. We thrive in chaos. The battle began at dawn. The Vrask came in formation, perfect and precise. 300 ships moving as one organism, adapting to every defensive position. Coalition forces opened fire, but the Vrask shields adjusted in real time, deflecting most damage. Then the humans struck. So-young led her squadron in from beneath the Vrask formation, engines screaming. They did not fly in any pattern the Vrask recognized. They wove and spun, each pilot moving independently but somehow always in perfect position to support each other. Fox 1, So-young called, launching missiles. But she did not wait to see if they hit. She was already rolling, already diving toward the next target. Behind her wingman fired at the same target from a different angle. The Vrask ship's shields, focused on blocking So-young's attack, could not adjust fast enough. The second missile punched through and detonated. Kill confirmed. But there was no celebration. They were already moving to the next target. Chang-min commanded ground forces on Kalin 5's surface. If the Vrask broke through orbital defenses, they would drop boarding pods. Chang-min had prepared for this. They will try to establish a beachhead, he told Junho, a human who had become the liaison between human and coalition forces. They will expect us to defend the population centers. So we will not be there. Where will we be? Everywhere else. When Vrask pods did break through, they landed expecting organized resistance. Instead, they found empty streets. Then the attacks came from every building, every alley, every rooftop. Human soldiers did not hold positions. They struck and moved, never staying still long enough for the Vrask to adapt. Coalition soldiers watched in amazement. They fight like the city itself is attacking, one said. Because it is, Chang-min replied. We know this ground. The Vrask do not. That is our advantage. In orbit, the battle was turning brutal. Vrask reinforcements kept arriving. Coalition ships were taking heavy damage. Admiral Hyawan's flagship lost shields and half its weapons. She prepared to order a retreat. Then she saw something that changed her mind. A human fighter piloted by a man named Tae-ho took a direct hit that destroyed his engines. He was dead in space, drifting. 3 Vrask fighters moved in to finish him. But instead of ejecting, Tae-ho used his emergency thrusters to angle his dying ship toward the nearest Vrask vessel. He crashed into it at full speed. Both ships exploded. The other 2 Vrask fighters scattered in confusion. In that moment of chaos, coalition ships destroyed them both. Did he just... Haiwan could not finish the sentence. Sacrifice himself? Young Six said calmly from the tactical station. Yes, that is what we do. We trade our lives to save others. That is insane. That is human. But Tae-ho was not dead. In the wreckage, alarms went off. Emergency beacons activated. Rescue teams found him in the debris, injured but alive. He had ejected at the last possible second, using the explosion to mask his escape pod. You nearly gave me a heart attack. The rescue captain shouted at him. Tae-ho grinned through blood-stained teeth. Nearly is not the same as actually. I am still here. The battle raged for 18 hours. Coalition forces were exhausted. Even the humans were starting to slow down. But they did not stop. They did not retreat. Every time the Vrask thought they had won, humans would launch another impossible attack. Bora had been working non-stop in the engineering bay, creating new weapons from salvaged parts. She handed one to a coalition engineer. What does it do? He asked. I'm not entirely sure, but it should overload Vrask shields for about 3 seconds. Should? Try it and find out. The weapon worked, sort of. It exploded spectacularly, taking out not just the target's shields but also completely destroying the ship's navigation systems. 3 Vrask vessels collided trying to avoid the blast. I did not expect that, Bora admitted. But I will take it. On the ground, Tae-young worked in a field hospital that had been set up in an old factory. Wounded coalition soldiers came in faster than the medical staff could handle. Tae-young moved between them, working with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. This one is critical, a nurse called out. He needs surgery now. Bring him here. Tae-young did not look up from the patient he was currently saving. I will get to him in 3 minutes. 3 minutes? He will be dead. Then I will work faster. He did. Tae-young moved like a machine, his hands steady, his focus absolute. He performed surgery that should have taken an hour and 15 minutes. The patient survived. So did the next one. And the next? Tae-young worked for 36 hours straight, saving lives faster than the battle could take them. How are you still standing? A coalition doctor asked, amazed. Because people need me, Tae-young replied simply. I will rest when the war is over. The tide began to turn. The Vrask were taking losses they had not anticipated. Their perfect formations were in chaos. Their calculations kept being proven wrong. The humans were not following any logical pattern. They were not fighting to win. They were fighting because they refused to lose. There is a difference. Wu Jin, monitoring Vrask communications, detected something he had never heard before. Uncertainty. The swarm was confused. They had lost 40 ships to 90 coalition vessels when they should have won easily. They did not understand what was happening. They are questioning their tactics, Wu Jin reported. They are trying to understand the human variable. Can they? Haiwan asked. No, you cannot calculate stubbornness. You cannot predict someone who refuses to acknowledge when they should be dead. Then the Vrask deployed their trump card, the Worldeater. It appeared at the edge of the system, a moon-sized vessel that had consumed 14 planets. Its weapons could crack continents. Its shields had never been breached. It was death incarnate. All ships retreat, Haiwan ordered. There is no fighting that thing. But Young Sik was staring at the tactical display, his mind racing. There might be a way. To destroy it? To hurt it? Maybe even kill it. How? Young Sik turned to face the Admiral. Someone needs to get inside it. Plant explosives at the core. Detonate from within. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. It was a suicide mission. One way in, no way out. I cannot ask anyone to do that, Haiwan said quietly. You are not asking. I'm volunteering. You will die. Young Sik smiled. Maybe, but maybe I will get lucky. Either way, that thing cannot be allowed to reach Kalin 5. 4 billion people are counting on us. Word spread quickly. A human was proposing to sacrifice himself to stop the Worldeater. Coalition Command argued. They said it was too dangerous. They said one life was not worth the risk. Then every other human volunteered. All of them. We do not leave each other behind. So Young said. If Young Sik goes, we all go. Haiwan looked at these creatures, these humans who had been asleep for 3,000 years, who owed the galaxy nothing, who had every reason to run. And they were fighting instead. Not because they had to, because they chose to. You truly are monsters, she whispered. Young Sik nodded. The best kind. Dong Hyun had been watching everything. He had followed Sang Wook's orders, reported on human tactics, sent information to the purifiers. But now, seeing humans prepare to die for people who had imprisoned them, something broke inside him. He found Sang Wook in a secret meeting, planning another attack on the humans while they were distracted by the battle. This is wrong, Dong Hyun said. What? Everything we have done. Everything we believe.
It is all wrong.
Humans are not monsters. We are. Sang Wook's face darkened. You are a traitor. No, I am finally seeing clearly. Dong Hyun turned and walked away. Behind him, Sang Wook shouted threats, but Dong Hyun no longer cared. He had work to do. The humans needed help, and this time he would give it. The Worldeater moved through space like a slow death. Coalition forces scattered before it, unable to even scratch its shields. Every weapon they fired was absorbed or deflected. It was unstoppable, but Young Sik was studying it carefully. Every fortress had a weakness. Every monster could bleed. You just had to be willing to get close enough to find out how. The core, he said, pointing at the tactical display. It has to be there. Nothing that big can function without a massive power source at its center. Getting inside will be impossible, Haiwan said. The outer hull is solid. No docking ports, no weak points, and then we make a weak point. Bora was already working on it. She had commandeered an entire engineering deck and was building something that made Coalition scientists nervous. It was a drill, basically, but powered by a fusion reactor that was barely stable. This will melt through anything, she said proudly, for about 30 seconds before it explodes. 30 seconds? Maybe 45 if you were lucky. It was not much, but it was enough. The plan was simple in theory, impossible in practice. A small strike team would approach the Worldeater, using debris from the battle as cover. They would attach the drill to the hull, breach it, enter the interior, fight their way to the core, plant explosives, and detonate. No one was expected to survive. 20 humans volunteered immediately. So Young, Chang Min, Bo Ra, Tai Yang, all the names that had become legendary over the past weeks. Young Sik tried to limit the team to just 5 people, but the others refused. We are in this together, So Young said. All of us. Then something unexpected happened. Daeho stepped forward. The archaeologist who had awakened the first humans who had nearly died in the poison gas attack raised his hand. I am coming too. Daeho, no, you are not military. Neither was I before you woke up, Hajun said, stepping beside his mentor. But I'm coming anyway. Yunbi joined them. Then Jiwoo. Coalition soldiers began volunteering one by one. Warriors who had fought beside humans and learned what it meant to never give up. Young Sik looked at Heewon, who nodded slowly. It seems you are not the only monsters anymore. The strike force numbered 50. Half human, half coalition. They prepared in silence, each person knowing this might be their last day. But there was no fear. Fear was for people who had something to lose. They had already decided their lives were worth trading for billions of others. Insu, the eldest human to wake from stasis, found Young Sik before the mission. She was small and ancient, her face lined with wrinkles from a life lived long ago, but her eyes were sharp. I need to tell you something, she said, about why we really went to sleep. Now, especially now, in case you do not come back. She told him the true history, how humans had not been imprisoned but had chosen stasis, how they had seen the galaxy becoming dependent on human help, unable to solve their own problems, how humans had decided the greatest gift they could give was absence. We trusted them to grow without us, Insu said. And they did. They built the coalition. They created peace. They learned to stand on their own. They forgot about us, that was the point. We became myths so they could become heroes. She touched Young Sik's arm gently. Now you get to show them what happens when myths and heroes work together. The strike team launched. 50 ships, small and fast, hiding among the debris from earlier battles. The Worldeater did not even notice them at first. Why would it? They were insects compared to its bulk, but insects can sting. They reached the hull. Bora's drill activated, burning through metal that should have been impenetrable. Sparks flew. Alarms blared inside the Worldeater. The Vrask swarm realized what was happening and sent defenders. Too late. The breach opened. The strike team poured inside. The interior of the Worldeater was a nightmare. Organic machinery fused with metal. Vrask drones everywhere, thousands of them. The strike team fought their way deeper, losing people with every corridor. Chang Min led the assault, his movements perfect and precise. Every shot counted, every step was planned. But there were too many enemies. A Vrask warrior nearly killed him before Dong Hyun appeared, firing from the side. The traitor Purifier had followed them, fighting now for redemption. I thought you hated humans, Chang Min shouted over the weapons fire. I was wrong, Dong Hyun replied. About everything. They pushed forward. So Young flew close air support, her ship weaving through the massive internal chambers, drawing fire away from the ground team. She took hit after hit, her ship falling apart around her. But she did not eject, not yet. Not while her friends needed cover. Tae-yang moved among the wounded, pulling them to safety, stabilizing injuries while dodging enemy fire. He saved 3 coalition soldiers who should have died. Then he saved 2 more. Jiwoo protected him. Her armor scorched and dented, but she never stopped fighting. Daeho and Hajun worked together, using their knowledge of ancient technology to bypass Vrask's security systems. They were not soldiers, but they were learning. Hajun took a shot meant for Yunbi, his shoulder burning. He kept working anyway. You are bleeding, Yunbi said. So are you. They smiled at each other and kept going. The core room was massive, a sphere of pulsing energy that powered the entire Worldeater. Young Sik looked at it and began calculating where to place the explosives. Bora was already setting charges, moving with practiced efficiency. How long do we have? Young Sik asked. Vrask reinforcements will be here in 5 minutes. The charges need 10 minutes to properly set, and we need 15 minutes to evacuate. That math does not work. I know, someone had to stay behind. Someone had to hold the room long enough for the explosives to be set, and for everyone else to escape. It was another suicide mission within a suicide mission. Every human volunteered again. Every coalition soldier volunteered. Young Sik looked at them all. These brave, foolish, wonderful people who refused to run even when running made sense. No one stays behind, he said firmly. We set the charges faster. We fight harder. We all make it out together. That is impossible. Then we will do the impossible. That is what humans do. And apparently it is contagious. They worked like machines. Bora and 2 coalition engineers set charges in 3 minutes that should have taken 15. The team formed a defensive perimeter, holding back waves of Vrask with nothing but determination and firepower. So Young crashed her dying ship into a group of Vrask warriors, then fought her way out of the wreckage on foot. The final charge was set. The countdown began. 2 minutes to detonation. 5 minutes to reach the breach point. 7 minutes to clear the blast radius, they ran. Corridors blurred past. Explosions chased them. Vrask drones swarmed from every direction. The strike team fought and ran and fought, never stopping, never slowing. Tae-young pulled a wounded coalition soldier who could not walk. Chungmin carried 2 more. Humans and aliens helping each other, no one left behind. They reached the breach. Ships were waiting, engines hot, ready to flee. The team scrambled aboard, still firing at pursuing Vrask. Young Sik did a head count. Someone was missing. Dong-hyun. The former purifier was still inside, holding a corridor junction, buying seconds with his life. Young Sik saw him on the security feed, fighting alone against impossible odds. "Leave me." Dong-hyun's voice came over the comm. 30 seconds to detonation. Go! Young Sik did not hesitate. He turned and ran back into the Worldeater. "What are you doing?" Haiwan screamed. "What humans do," he shouted back. "We do not leave people behind." He found Dong-hyun dying, surrounded by destroyed Vrask. Young Sik grabbed him and ran. The countdown hit 10 seconds. They would not make it. So Bo-Ra remote-piloted an empty ship to their location. It crashed through the hull, creating a new breach. Young Sik threw Dong-hyun inside and dove after him. The ship accelerated on autopilot, racing against the detonation. 5 seconds. 4. 3. They cleared the Worldeater's shields. 2. 1. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The Worldeater, the unstoppable fortress that had consumed 14 worlds, tore itself apart from the inside. Light brighter than stars flooded the system. When it faded, nothing remained but debris. The strike team survived. Barely. Damaged and bleeding, but alive. Every single one of them. The Vrask swarm watched their ultimate weapon die. And for the first time in their collective memory, they felt something new. Fear. Wu Jin intercepted their communications. The swarm was broadcasting to itself, sharing information across their hive mind, and what they shared was a name from their genetic memory. Deathwalkers, the species that does not know when to die, the species that fights beyond reason, the species that the Vrask had fled from 8,000 years ago. Humans had returned. The swarm made a decision. They could not win this fight, not against creatures who would fly damaged ships into enemy vessels. Not against warriors who would run back into exploding fortresses to save a single person. Not against people who turned impossible odds into challenges. The Vrask broadcasted on all frequencies. "We withdraw. The Deathwalkers have returned. We will not make the same mistake twice," and they left. The entire swarm, millions of ships, fled Coalition space and never came back. On Kalin 5, 4 billion people celebrated. Across the galaxy, species that had been preparing to evacuate their worlds realized they were safe. The war was over before it truly began. In the medical bay, Tae-yang worked on the wounded. Dong-hyun would survive. So would everyone else.